Good morning and happy Monday. I hope you guys had a really awesome 3-day weekend. We are going to get back in the groove of school by doing a review on rounding. So we watched a couple of really cool rounding songs, and I'm going to put a link to those in our class page so that we can watch them and refresh. The one that I want us to remember is the one where it talked about numbers being a hill, and it reminded us that if we were to draw a hill, 5 is the part where it starts to go down. This is the part where we would roll back to where we started. And these are all the numbers that would take us to the other side of the hill. So if you are looking at our vertical number lines and that is really confusing, let's go and let's use our hill. So we're at 32, which would put my 2 right here. This side is 30. This side is 40. I am closer to the 30 side than I am to the 40. If you are more comfortable using the number line, go for it. I just want to remind us that there's more than one way to decide how we round our numbers. So 36, I need to go and I need to label my tens on both sides of my number line. That is always my first step. And now I'm going to find approximately where 36 is on my number line. It's about right here. It's a little above 35. And I can see that it is closer to the 40 than it is to the 30. I would have to take more steps to get over here than I would over here. It's about 40. Now, if we go and we use our hill comparison again, this is where the 6 is. My 6 would take me rolling downhill. I would roll to the 40. Let's take a look at 62. My first step is to go and label my numbers. You always start with the 10 that your first number begins with. I would not start here with 50, because if I started with 50, this would be 50 and that would be 60. 62 wouldn't even fit on my number line. So here's 60. Here's 70. Always start with the 10 that's right here. So if this was an 8, we'd start with an 80. If it was a 9, we'd start with a 90. Don't go beneath it. Stay where it is. This number in the middle, right in between, that's 65. So 61, 62 is right about here. I see that 62 is closer to 60 than it is to 70. Look how much further I'd have to go to get to the 70. I want to stay here at the 60. It is about 60. Here we have a larger digit. We have 162. So same rule applies. They're asking us to round tens. They're not asking us to round hundreds. So I'm going to start each of my places with a 100 because I'm not seeing if this rounds to 100 or 200. I'm checking out the 162 part of it. So my 10 will start with 60 because that's what my 10 starts with here. It's 162. This is 165. And this is 170. 161, 162. 162 is closer to 160 than it is to 170. When we're looking at rounding, we're looking at close. There's a reason we say, oh, it's about 160, because it is about this much closer to 160 than all of this to get to 170. It's thinking about movement. The numbers are lazy. They want to do as little moving as possible. So keep them close to where to what you can round it to. Don't go and make it do a ton of work. Don't turn 162 into 170. I'd have to jump 8 spots. Here, I only have to move 2 spots. lazy numbers. They don't want to go anywhere. Let's take a look at our last two problems on this page. We have 278. So again, we're not rounding hundreds, so these will all be at 2. 78, 278, therefore my 10 is 70. This is 275. And this is 280. Please do not label 270, 280, 290. We don't need to cover that many tens when we're labeling. That's going way too far forward. So 278, all right, 276, 277, 278. We see that 278 is a lot closer to 280 than it is 270. It has to do less work to get to 280 than it does to 270. All right, 405. So they all start with a 4. Now this one can be a little tricky because 405, you're like, man, there is a 0 in the ones place, or in the tens place, excuse me. What do I do with that? You leave it there. So that becomes 400. Whenever you see a number that is something 05, your options for your tens will always be no tens or 110, because that's what that's telling us, right? We have only 1 10 in this spot. Here we have no tens in that spot. So 405, this is one of those that loves to be tricky for us on the number line because it's dead center. So this is where that hill thing from our song comes into play. So if we recall, let me see if I can get our numbers up and ready. Now I have kind of a lumpy hill, so I'm gonna have to go and do some terrascaping for a moment here because that should not stick up like that. That's not what hills do. There we go. Okay, still not quite what hills do, but better than it was. See if we can get that. Ooh, now we've got a dip. So this is where we'd be at, right? We'd be right here. Think about if this was a ball at the top of that hill. Is it going to roll this way to 400? Or is it going to roll this way to 410? Based on what we've learned about gravity, we know that ball is going to go this way, which is why 405 is going to round to 410. Now, we have a few problems on the back. And let's go and let's take care of these. It says, round the weight of each item to the nearest 10 grams. Draw number lines to model your thinking. If you are doing the hill thing, you are absolutely free to draw the hill instead. Either one of those counts as a number line for me. I'm going to go and put my lines in real quick just so I have them. If you want your number lines to go this way instead, more power to you. I'm just putting mine vertically because that's how the book has had them. If you want them a different way, go for it. It's up to you. It did not specify what type of number line it wanted. All right, so we have 36. So that means this is 40, this is 30, 35 is middle-ish. It's okay if your 35 isn't dead in the middle. However, your 35 should not be right next to the 40. It should not be right next to the 30. So our number is 36. I can see that the 36 is closer to 40 than it is to 30. So rounded to the nearest 10 grams would be 40 grams. My number is 52. This number is 50. This number is 60. This number is 55. So this is 52, 51, 52. That 52 is closer to 50. It's right next door. It's hanging out at the desk right next to it. It is not all the way across the room. We want to stay there. It's like I always tell you guys, stay at your table. Talk to your table. Don't be green group talking to like red group. That's way too far apart. All right, and there's my 145 in the middle. So 142, here's 141, 142. I am closer to 140 grams. I do have some rounding games that I linked to in the module. If you haven't seen those yet, those are really nice practice. You either get to destroy some asteroids or you get to launch rockets, sticking with our space theme since this year we were reaching for the stars at school. I'm going to erase and take a look at our next set of problems. Oh, look at that. Here we've got a time problem mixed in there. They snuck it on in. All right. Carl's basketball game begins at 3:03 and ends at 3:51. How many minutes did Carl's basketball game last? All right, I need to get to something that ends in a 1. The nearest 1 from something with a 3 is 11, so I'm going to come forward 11 minutes. Or excuse me, 8 minutes until 3:11. I'm so glad that you guys knew what I meant because I already heard some of you say, Mr. Hagelberger. So we're at 3:11. So now I need to get from 3:11 to 3:51. Well, to get from 11 to 51, I'm adding 40. If you need to do a smaller jump or maybe one that doesn't partially obscure the writing, you know, it's all good. So we see this is 48 minutes. Now it says round the number of minutes in the game to the nearest 10 minutes. So I've done my vertical number line. Again, you are totally free to go ahead and do a horizontal number line. It is not giving you a rule. That should have been a 5. There we go. And here we have a 45 in the middle. My number was 48, so 46, 47, 48. Whoa, my 48 is basically at 50. So remember, we have our little about symbol. So about 50 minutes.